Hi, welcome back to Golden Rust or Bust. I'm your host, John Behrens, and today's episode we're going to be working on a 1935 Chevy Coupe. So this was my grandpa's car back when he was in college. He kind of slapped it together. You're going to have to see what it's got for an engine in it, but you'll actually also have to see what's under all these tarps and these shovels and these hats and these boxes and everything else, because we got to get this old beast uncovered and out of the garage. So that's what we're going to be doing on this episode. Stay tuned.
There we go! Woo!
I'm nervous, not gonna lie. Well, we're back at Grandpa's garage today. We're going to be trying to get this old beast out of its hole. We got the front out a little bit. So, a little backstory on this. This was my grandfather's back to forth school car back in the 60s and 70s, and he would drive this from Lost Nation all the way to Cedar Rapids. No, Cedar Falls? Cedar Falls. Cedar Falls?
Yeah.
He'd drive it all the way to Cedar Falls to go to school. So he's had this car for many years, many years. We've had it out a couple times. It went on the power tour back in 2012.
I didn't run on the power tour. I just went up and talked to him, or went up to see him up at Bettendorf.
We still got the sticker though, so it works out for me.
Okay.
So it went to a power tour. Didn't go on the tour, but that was back in 2012. So 10 years ago, it's been sitting. So what we're going to do today is we're going to try and get it uncovered and out of the garage. All right, well, I think we're gonna need to air up the tires on this old machine. So Grandpa's gonna plug in his old antique air compressor. I'm surprised that you replaced the belt.
For a while, I had the old belt around here. You should have seen the old one.
No, it was covered in duct tape and electrical tape and any type of tape that you could to keep it held together. But yeah, that old machine has been in the garage ever since I remember.
It was built from a refrigeration compressor by a dear friend of mine, co-worker. He died a long time ago. But he put this together as a young man when he was maybe in his 20s. So this compressor dates back damn near 100 years.
Yeah, it looks old. I like how you can see it drawing the energy out of the light.
Listen to it.
It's quiet.
Not making that terrible sound that you get from those oilless ones.
Yeah.
It just rattles so bad you can't stand it. It just sits there and goes click, 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 click. Kind of like an old steam engine.
Grandpa found a hat.
This is my old swap meet hat. I wore this when I used to go to the swap meets at Cedar Rapids. And the flowers are on it to attract attention, because that way the people that are walking by, they take a look when they see this crazy hat, and that turns them enough that they can see what I got on the table. So they might decide to just walk over and talk to this old guy about what he's trying to pedal.
And then he also wanted to teach you guys a little bit about old fuel pump.
The old pumps years ago had screws in them. You could take the screws out and you could separate this thing apart, and they sold diaphragms and valves for them. I've known of some cases where the fuel pump didn't want to work, and the reason it didn't want to work is the valve was stuck. Try compressed air in to blow the valve free if it's been sitting a long time and the valve is stuck closed. Sometimes a little blast of air in there will break the valve free, and then the pump can start working again. Otherwise, you can take them apart and get in there and physically with a screwdriver play with the valves a little to get them unstuck. This is an old Ford pump. This fits some kind of an old V8 Ford. I have a hunch. I found this under the bench trying to dig this old coupe out. I think this was for a '59 Ford that I had when I first moved to the Davenport area, and that was in 1966. But I think I had to replace a fuel pump on that '59 Ford four-door sedan. And I think, knowing me, I save everything, so I saved the old one. But it's stuck tight, so it's, well, actually what it is right now, it's dirty die cast.
Yeah.
You take the bottom off and the top can go as dirty die cast, and that pays better than steel. So that's what that is. It can stay outside. It doesn't need to go back in the garage.
If it goes back in the garage, it won't come out for another 20 years.
It ain't coming back out.
Not completely uncovered yet, but we're getting close. This is Grandpa's 3-window Chevy Coupe, 1935. But what the real interesting thing is about this machine, as it's got a Ford flathead underneath it that he put in there.
62 or 3. 1962 or 1963. I came back from Minneapolis, and my cousin a second cousin had bought this vehicle from a fella there in the city of Wyoming, Iowa. The owner at that time, before my cousin, was a gentleman by the name of Dean James. Where he got the car, I don't know, but it sat behind a mobile station for several years. My cousin bought it. I was living in Minneapolis. I came back and I saw him, and he told me he was going in the Army. And so I says, "What are you going to do with your coupe?" And he says, "Well, if you want to buy it, I'll sell it to you for what I paid for it." So I bought the vehicle for $250. It took 2 trips to get it. The front fenders, the grill were in one piece. The engine was hanging in there on a chain. The previous person, Dean James or somebody, had this flathead hanging with a chain under the oil pan. That's all, just to hold it up. The hood was in the front seat that you flip up. The transmission was in the trunk. There were no brakes on it. There were no brake lines. There was no parking brake. And I ended up buying it, put it in the garage while I went on to Cedar Falls to school, to college up there. And then when I came home in the summer, I started working on it and started getting the transmission in and floorboards made and brake lines put on and all the things you've got to do to get something that you can put it on the road. And at that time it was black with red primer showing all different kinds of places. And so I don't know exactly just when I got it on the road to Cedar Falls, but I know the first time it went to Cedar Falls, it was black. And I spent a school year at Cedar Falls with a black vehicle. I came home and it was right next to the Phillips 66 station was an Oliver dealership. And the guy that worked there says, "When are you going to do something about that bad paint job?" I says, "I don't know. I don't know how to paint." He says, "I know how to paint. I'll paint it for you. You get it ready." I had come home on a Friday. All Friday night, I sanded. Saturday morning, I went to Monticello and I bought 58 Chevy Sierra Gold is the color. 5.8 Chevy. On Saturday afternoon, the Oliver dealer guys run his airlines out from the dealership shop where they service Oliver tractors and sold them. And he started painting. And Sunday night, my roommate and I went back to Cedar Falls. So that's the paint. That's where the paint job come from. I eloped with my wife to be in this vehicle in 1966.
My grandma.
Your grandma.
Yep.
Grandma Judy. Now, if you figure I started on a Friday night sanding, and I don't remember. It seems to me there was a bullet hole right there in that door, and I bought a little tube or something of Bondo.
I think you can see
it's
it
right there.
Yep, you can see it.
And I smeared a little Bondo in there or something to get rid of the bullet hole or the dent in the door. And then I drove it. Well, I was driving it when my wife and I got married, and then a buddy of mine up in Cedar Falls got drafted into Nam, and he had a 59 Ford Fairlane, four-door sedan. And I knew that this wasn't the thing that I was going to be using for my basic transportation, so I bought the Ford. It also came with a trailer and a boat behind it. That was part of the package. I had to put a rear axle bearing in it before I could even drive it, because the rear axle bearing was totally done for. And then Judy and I moved to Wyoming, and then we ended up coming to Davenport in '66. There probably isn't another one in the United States. I mean, no respectable hot rodder would put a flathead Ford in a Chevy body. That's what makes it so unique, I guess. But the flathead was faithful to me. It was reliable. It started in the winter, and I would push my buddies' vehicles around with this for them to get theirs started. I would push them, and they'd
pop the clutch.
Mm-hmm. It's been to South Dakota. It's been a whole summer going back and forth from Sioux City to Webster City, Iowa. Every weekend it made that trip. It typically at that time, it'll run with traffic with no problem at about 60, 62, but a little over that, you're starting to squeeze the flathead. 47 Ford pickups were not really intended to be run 65 or 70 down the road, and that's the powertrain is 47 Ford pickup flathead, and it gets about 20. I checked it consistently. It gets roughly, if you keep her under 65, except for passing somebody that's like a farm wagon or something, it gets 23.6 miles per gallon.
Really?
That's not too bad for a V8 running at 60 some miles.
That ain't too bad. That ain't too bad at all.
And at that time, I could fill the gas tank for $3. $3 filled the tank.
The whole tank, $3?
Filled the tank.
Oh my gosh, times have changed.
Used to go to the Holiday gas station, and I'd fill the gas tank, and that would allow me a coupon that was worth a big bag of potato chips at the Holiday station. If you filled the tank, they gave you free potato chips. And that's about the way it goes. Hat, yeah, gotta have my hat. When I lived in Minneapolis, there were 6 of us guys lived in a big old 2-story house, and everybody wore these things, and we'd wear these when we go water skiing and everything else. That's why the name and address are still inside, and the phone number is still inside. So if you lost it, it would float,
and so then you could return it.
Maybe somebody would get it back to you.
So like you heard my grandpa, this is a 90 horse Ford flathead V8, but it still runs, still doing good. I think what we're going to try and do is we're going to get it running, and then eventually what we'll do is we'll do a rebuild on the engine, put the engine back in there, or what we'll do is we'll put a Chevy motor or something in it. We're gonna see, but
Ford 302
or a Ford 302. We're gonna really change it up on this old machine. Why keep it stock when you know you can build it and make it your own? But yeah, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna put some nice new fuel down in the inside of the carburetor. Hopefully she'll pop off and make some noise for us. It cranks.
It cranks. And we'll see whether she wants to
pop off.
Come alive. Little medicine here for it.
Little medicine.
Okay, old girl, it's time to come alive.
Got spark. Oh, she's trying.
Might have flooded it. I don't know whether it's flooded or whether it's not getting enough fuel.
See if we can get that needle to come free so we can fill the bowl up.
The needle might be stuck. on, old girl. Did you see any spark?
It's very, very little.
Yeah, I think we're going to end up pulling the distributor out.
All right.
Now, there's two sets of points in that distributor. And I think the two, I don't think it's independent where one set of points is controlling the spark for four of them, 4 cylinders, and the other one is for the other four. I just don't remember anymore.
Okay.
Too many years ago.
So apparently what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to take the distributor out, clean those points, and hopefully we can get our spark to come back. I'll kind of show you how to do that, and Grandpa's going to teach me how, so it'll be a learning experience for the both of us. So what's my first step here, Grandpa?
I think you've got 2 5/8 bolts right behind the fan that hold the fan in. There'll be one on the other side, but I think you can get it by coming
Up over top.
up over the top. Now when you loosen the other one, the fan is going to try to drop down, but it can't fall down all the way. It'll just slide down. That's how you adjust the tension on the fan belt, is by
Really?
moving that bracket up and down. But those bolts have to come completely out. There's your fan is starting to drop.
Slide down, yeah.
Now don't let it tip forward and score the radiator.
Right, otherwise we'll have a leaky radiator. That ain't gonna be no good.
My finger's in here. Wait a
Good.
minute, you got me caught between the belt. Turn that to this side. There we go. Now you should be able to come my way. There you go. And up and out without doing any damage to the radiator.
All right, so we got the fan out.
Now you got a clip on the distributor cap. I think it has to go down. And when it goes down, the cap will be loose. Okay. Now the distributor cap, you might have,
Pulls right off.
it just pulls off, and you might be able to bring it up and get it tucked behind the belt enough just to get it out of your rope. Just like that. Now you can't go too far because your wires are coming in from the other side.
Okay.
Now you've got a rotor on it that you can pull off toward the radiator. It should slide off of there. If it doesn't, we'll leave it go. We'll get it later.
Yep, it's not coming off.
Okay, if you feel around, I can't see them, but you feel around somewhere, there's 2 bolts there. I think they're 1/2 inch. I think I found one here. You should have one somewhere over in this area,
Okay.
I believe, without being able to see in there.
Yep, I found one.
Okay, there's 2 that hold the distributor into the engine block. Those 2 bolts have to come out. What you want to do is you want to try to run the tool with your left hand and try to hold the wire tight, because if they're stuck together, if you turn the nut without holding the wire,
You can
the
twist.
stud will turn and you can twist the stud off in the distributor.
Okay.
So anytime you're taking wires loose, it's always a good idea to hold on to the wire as you break a nut loose, like on a generator or the back of an alternator, because of that situation. It can twist off. Now, get your wire out of the way. And now if you take a hold of that distributor and rock it a little, it should come right straight forward and out of the block.
Just like that.
And you have the distributor.
That's the distributor, huh?
Hold it up to your people to see.
That is the funkiest looking distributor I have ever seen in my life.
The points are on the rotor side.
I see them, yeah.
There should be 2 sets in there.
There's 2 sets of points. One where my finger is right here, and then another one, right here on this side. So we're gonna file these points and hopefully we can get a better spark so we can get this thing to fire up.
These were used, let's say, from 1940 to 48 for sure.
Okay.
I know that for sure.
So what you need to do is you take your file here, and then there's these two armatures, and every time that this here, which is engaged by the camshaft,
it's running in the middle of the block.
The camshaft turns this centerpiece here, and there's lobes that open and close
the points.
When you file in points, you want to keep it up and down, and you want to kind of let the point control. When it squeezes, you want to let the points control the angle of the file.
Square.
Yep. So I'm going to clean one side, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the other side.
Okay, your next step then, John,
Yep.
is take that piece of cardboard. Open the points with your finger,
Okay.
one finger, put that in between, get it down in there,
And slide it back
slide
and
it
forth.
back and forth, let the points come close against it.
Okay.
Now, before you pull it out, open the points and then pull it. Otherwise, you'll tear little fibers off of the end of the paper, the cardboard. What we have here is what's called lubricam, silicone cam lubricant.
Silicone cam lubricant.
We're going to lubricate the breaker cam. Just take just a little bit.
Just a dabble, do you?
Now, without hitting the points, reach down in there and kind of smear a little of it back and forth on the cam lobes. Now, without putting the breaker point cam lube on the cam, the rubbing blocks, if you drive the car for a period of time, the rubbing block will wear down. The part of the movable point that touches the cam will wear, and when that happens, the points won't open far enough.
And therefore they won't break contact.
They won't break contact, so the magnetic field in the coil can't collapse, and you aren't
Therefore
going to
you
get
won't
any
get spark.
high voltage. Well, we're at the stage now where the distributor would be ready to go back in.
All right, so Grandpa's kind of taught me how to put it in by explaining it to me. So I'm gonna go ahead and give her my best try here. And like my grandpa told me, I'm gonna hold on to the wire as I'm tightening it. Okay, got my cap, my distributor back in the machine. Now I'm gonna put my fan back on with the belt, wherever that went. I'd say that is a tight belt. All right, so now that we got the distributor back in, after we filed the points, I'm gonna fire up, see if she wants to run for us. I say she's running. Woo! Yeah! Yeah! All right! As you can see, it blew out all the old cobwebs in the back. She just needed to warm up. Grandpa had to run. He had to go and take some old parts off an old boat that we're gonna scrap out and destroy. So I don't really know what to do from here except for try and drive it, but I don't really want to drive it without Grandpa being here, because then, you know, he might be a little upset. So we'll have to see. I might just try and throw her in gear and see if it goes. But yeah, she's running good. She's running real good. Real low idle. Smells like the 60s, 70s. No, I'm just kidding. It smells like old fuel. Smells like success. That's what we're gonna say. It smells like success. So it's been a couple days since I've worked on the coupe. Got my hair cut. We actually ran into a little bit of problem after we got it running. We were chasing down a draw. It was drawing 10 amps. So what we had to do is we had to go through the system, and this machine, because my grandpa's a genius, is running half on 12 and half on 6 volts through reducers and all that mess. And so what we had to do is we had to figure out where the draw was coming from, and we figured out it was coming from the switch for the headlights. What I think was happening was a 6 volt hot power was touching a ground, or going straight to a ground underneath in the dash. So we got that figured out, got the headlights to work, and now we're not, you know, drawing so much power anymore. So what we need to do now is we're just going to pull it out for you guys, and you guys can take a look at it out in the sunlight. So either.
First we used the screwdriver between the backing plate and the drum to see if we could move it at all that way. We thought we got it moving a little bit, so we take a padded hammer. If you don't have one of these, take a block of wood, put it in front of the drum out on the heavy part of it, and use your big hammer and tap it back in. Do that on both sides. Pry it out again with the screwdriver a little if you can get it to go. We've done this about 3-4 times with the screwdriver and the hammer action. And then I'm going to try to turn the drum in this method with a crowbar. The crowbar is against the hub of the drum, and we put a piece of wood between the threads on the stud so that the crowbar doesn't destroy the threads on the wheel stud. And now we're going to put a little pressure on it and see if we can get that drum to turn. It's moving a little. There she goes. And now we'll do it again. And again until we can maybe pull that drum off of there. See whether I can turn it. Yeah. And the wood isn't going to hurt those threads any. The more I turn it, the more rust will get polished off the drum.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what we needed to do.
So now that we got it off, we're gonna clean it up and hopefully get it so they don't rub as much. Grandpa has both the wheels off and the drums and pretty much everything. The shoes, the whole brake system on the front is pretty much off the car. What we had to do is we had to get new shoes, pretty much new everything, because the wheel cylinder was leaking and leaked brake fluid all over all the parts, and they rusted up tight and pretty much ruined everything. So that's pretty much where we're at right now. We got both tires off, both brake systems off the front of the car, and Grandpa has the brake systems up here.
Somebody in working on the brakes before I got the vehicle. The shoes that were on the driver's side, the left side of the vehicle, were what were called a bonded shoe, where the lining, which is these things, is not riveted to the shoe, it's glued on. So to get those off, the only way I could find to get them off was to literally lock up the shoes in a vise and then chisel them off. And they all came off in little bitty pieces.
Got it. So is this one that you've already riveted?
That's a new one.
So that's a new one? But
these are new ones.
Do you have them riveted in already?
They are riveted in already.
Got it. And you can see the rivets on the back right there. And then it goes through the front on this side.
There's one left to do, and that's this shoe that's in the vise now, getting ready for a new lining.
So what Grandpa's going to do is Grandpa's pretty much going to teach us how to rivet shoes on. They do that anymore much, or is it mostly for the old vehicles?
I really don't know whether there's any riveted ones out there. I haven't seen any in years. I mean, since back in the 70s, I think we've had bonded shoes on almost anything that had drum brakes. And of course, now
you don't really have
vehicles have got disc brakes.
You don't really have drum brakes
isn't
anymore.
Used much at all anymore. I can't name a particular newer model that has drum brakes. Ready to basically start going together, so we're going to clamp up a shoe in the vise just to hold it.
And I'm going to get the tripod set up so you guys can watch me learn and Grandpa teach me and teach you guys how to rivet this onto the metal piece itself. All right, so I got the tripod set up as best as I could, and we're going to start riveting this shoe on. So run us through what we need to do, Grandpa.
Well, the first thing you need to do is get yourself out a rivet. You start at the center. It doesn't really make that big a difference until you're ready to do the riveting. When you clinch them down, you start at the center and work your way to the end. So you squeeze the shoe down
evenly so they don't crack.
Now, once you've got that down in there, I've been taking a punch and I just give them a couple taps to make sure they're all the way down. Take that out of the vise and find a home for it here somewhere temporarily.
So when you get done, your shoe's going to look like this. It's going to have your brake pad on it, and you're going to have your tape and your rivet
You see the
you're going to
rivet
have your
sticking out
indents.
on the back
And then you can
side.
see the rivet sticking out on the back side.
Okay.
So you put the bottom of the shoe with it in the hole flat.
Fit the anvil in there. So I'm going to hold the shoe, and you're going to look in if you didn't move the light so far away that we can't see the rivet.
I'm there.
Now, if it's night, if it's right where it's supposed to be, centered in the thing,
You start tapping.
yeah, give her a good tap, and then check it and do it again. Doesn't need to go down too dang far.
Okay.
Let's see how you turned out.
We'll see.
Looks pretty good. It'll go.
Okay.
This is about the best that this tool's been working. It isn't even in doing it, but if you look at the manufacturer of this tool, look at the amount of slop he's got in here.
Right. Come from China?
I think so. This tool wobbles so dang much that it can get off to the side a little, and then you don't get a real nice
And so
flare.
then
It doesn't flare the rivet as evenly as it would if it stay where it's supposed to.
So then your rivets kind of turn out like that. They should be mushroomed perfectly.
Yeah,
So then we're going to do the other side.
that's right. Now that one turned out nice.
Yep.
I must have held it straighter that time.
You did.
Or you swung the hammer straighter.
So see, that's what your rivets are supposed to look like. That's the first one that kind of turned out. So big difference. So we're going to try and make all of them look like that. All right. Now that is a riveted shoe. So now you can't take that off. You'd have to grind your rivets out in order to get it loose. But anyway, so we got our shoes ready to go. We're going to put the shoe back onto its holder here, pretty much. And then pretty much where we're at is installing our new wheel cylinders, hooking up our lines and bleeding the brakes, putting the shoes back together and putting it all back together pretty much. Alright, well, we got the brakes done on both sides. We got the drums and everything put back on. We got them tightened up to where they need to be, adjusted. Now it's time to put the wheels back on, see if we can get this thing to run and drive out of the garage. I got it running a little while ago. We haven't had it running since, so hopefully it doesn't fight us too much. Should just pop off. But anyways, we're gonna see if we can get this machine to come out of the garage, out of its hole that it's been sitting in for 8 years, and get on the road today. So I got both tires on. Now it's about time for the car to come down onto the tires, off the jack stands and everything else. And we're down.
You may have the throttle. Go ahead.
got the machine out of its grave and it's out here running and driving. Take you a walk around the car for the first time. there she be in all her glory. Well, I think me and Grandpa are gonna take her for a ride up and around the block a couple times. It's starting to become fall, so I don't know if we'll get her out again this year, but we're gonna try our best to. That's a beauty. To see if I can drive it.
Parking brake works anymore or not?
I want to pull it.
Doesn't feel like it. Got one coming? Yep. Missed it. Alright, is you ready?
Yep. Which way should I go?
Up the hill if you want to. I don't care whichever way you want to go, just so we don't run out of gas.
Okay.
We got a hell of a lot of fuel in there, and I don't know just how accurate that gauge is.
That's how I've been trying to drive it this whole time. I thought first was over here.
Oh, it's over there.
Hey, that's all right. I'm a police officer. I think I can talk my way out of it.
Not with me. I'm making the citizens arrest.
Well, we got the machine running. We got it out of its grave. Got it back on the road. We don't have brake lights, so we're going to start working on that now. I'm running out of time. I got to get off here so I can go to work. But we're going to keep working on the car. That'll do it for this episode. Thank you very much for watching. If you watched before, if you haven't watched before, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel so you can see more content like this. And always reminder, go check out my friends, Junkyard Digs, Junkyard Mook, Cars and Cameras, Vice Grip's Garage, if you never heard of him, Jeremy Rhydes, Thunderhead 289, and there's probably a couple more I forgot of. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and as always, keep those wrenches turning.